Donald Trump recently issued a significant financial request regarding North American relations. He proposed a $2.8 trillion adjustment from Canada, framing it as a contribution for years of shared security. He described it as a necessary rebalancing of trade. This was a firm stance aimed at renegotiating the partnership. He anticipated a specific reaction from Ottawa, but Prime Minister Mark Carney maintained his composure. Carney responded with measured professional calm. He avoided public outbursts or social media friction, instead focusing on a strategic economic lever that many in Washington had overlooked. Now, the ripple effects are being felt across financial markets, energy sectors, and defense circles. We will examine exactly how the situation evolved, who reacted first, and why this $2.8 trillion proposal might be remembered as a pivotal moment in modern diplomacy. Recently, President Trump addressed the public regarding the global economy. He requested that Canada provide $2.8 trillion to the United States. His reasoning centered on regional contributions, suggesting that Canada has benefited from American defense frameworks like NORAD and NATO without sufficient payment. He also characterized the trade balance as unfavorable to American workers, stating that a resolution is required to maintain the current relationship. He viewed this as a decisive move, expecting a quick concession to keep the border functional. He viewed the partnership through a lens of significant influence, believing the neighboring nation would quickly align with these new terms. However, the administration is interacting with Mark Carney, a seasoned financial expert. Carney is a former central banker with extensive experience at major institutions, having navigated the Canadian economy through the 2008 crisis and guided the United Kingdom during its transition from the European Union. He possesses a deep understanding of market dynamics and leverage, knowing precisely where the economic interdependencies lie between the two nations. Observers suggest there was an expectation of a quick negotiation from Ottawa. Instead, the response was a demonstration of strategic economic management. Carney held a press conference where he appeared entirely composed. He did not agree to the financial request, nor did he focus on the specific figure. Instead, he initiated a national security review of Canada's energy and mineral exports. This wasn't presented as a threat, but as a formal assessment of the bilateral trade relationship. This move has led to significant discussions behind the scenes in Washington. To understand the gravity of the situation, we need to look at the data, the underlying economic realities that often go unmentioned in standard news cycles. The first major factor is the energy supply chain. While the goal of energy independence is often discussed, the reality is one of deep integration. The United States currently receives over 60% of its crude oil imports from Canada. Roughly 4 million barrels flow south daily through key pipelines like Keystone and Enbridge, supplying refineries in the Midwest and Gulf Coast. These facilities are specifically configured to process Canadian crude. They cannot easily transition to other types of oil. If this supply were interrupted, it would have a direct impact on American refining capacity. When the review of energy infrastructure was announced, markets reacted immediately. Oil prices saw a sharp increase, and refineries began assessing the potential impact on their operations. A significant reduction in this flow could lead to noticeable increases in fuel prices across several key states in a very short period. The second factor involves critical minerals essential for defense. While the financial request was framed around military costs, the U.S. defense sector relies on Canadian resources. For example, Canada provides a significant portion of the uranium used in American power plants. Additionally, nickel is vital for manufacturing jet engines and protective plating. While the U.S. has some domestic mining, it lacks the necessary refining capacity, often relying on Canadian facilities to process the material. Any changes to export policies would create challenges for the defense supply chain. The third factor is the electrical grid. Canada provides the vast majority of the electricity imported by the United States, particularly for regions like the Northeast and the Midwest. Many homes and essential services are powered by Canadian hydroelectricity. The management of these exports is a significant point of leverage. If new export protocols were established, it could lead to supply challenges in several major American cities. The fourth factor is the automotive industry. Manufacturers like General Motors and Ford operate on a highly integrated supply chain where components cross the border multiple times during production. Disruptions or significant new costs would impact assembly lines in Detroit and beyond. Financial analysts have already noted the risks to auto stocks. With hundreds of billions in annual trade, significant new barriers act as a cost to consumers and a risk to employment. The data suggests that the economic interdependence is profound. This situation is creating a challenging narrative for the administration. The strategy of using firm public demands to secure concessions is a familiar one, often used in private business negotiations. However, applying this to a sovereign nation with significant economic influence presents different challenges. By setting a very high financial target, the administration has limited its options. Retracting the request might be perceived as a strategic retreat, while maintaining it risks economic friction that could impact the broader economy ahead of upcoming elections. The economic effects are already visible. Following the request, some energy investments have been paused, and logistics companies are preparing for potential uncertainty. This leads to increased costs for transporting goods, which eventually reaches the consumer at the grocery store. The attempt to gain leverage through this proposal appears to be creating unexpected domestic pressures. Reports indicate that economic advisors are presenting data to the president highlighting these vulnerabilities. They are pointing to the reliance on Canadian aluminum for the aerospace industry and the importance of refinery stability. The international community has also become more accustomed to these negotiation styles, often responding with measured strategic moves rather than immediate concessions. This suggests a shift in how global partners interact with such requests. While the focus remains on historical contributions, global markets are assessing the predictability of the trading relationship. Investors generally prefer stability, and the current friction creates uncertainty. While the administration sought a specific outcome, Canada is exploring its own strategic options. The approach taken by Mark Carney provides a notable contrast. He focuses on institutional systems and market realities. His history as a central banker during major crises has prepared him for high-stakes economic situations. He tends to focus on long-term stability rather than reacting to immediate pressure, using his understanding of the financial system to maintain Canada's position. Carney is also reportedly strengthening ties with other global partners, including the European Union and the Indo-Pacific region. This signals that Canada is diversifying its trade portfolio. Data shows the U.S. share of Canadian exports has reached its lowest point in decades. With new infrastructure like the expanded Trans Mountain Pipeline, Canada has increased its ability to export energy directly to global markets, reducing its reliance on a single partner. This shift is altering the economic dynamics of North America. Carney's standing with international investors remains strong, as he utilizes professional communication styles to build credibility. His strategy appears to be a long-term effort to build a coalition of partners who value stable trade relations. It demonstrates that nations can maintain their interests by understanding their economic value and communicating it clearly. Canada has also introduced a new defense industrial strategy aimed at increasing its domestic production capabilities. This marks a change from its historical reliance on imported equipment. By developing its own defense technology, Canada is becoming more self-sufficient, a move that some analysts see as a preparation for a more independent role in regional security. For the average person, these developments have real-world implications. A prolonged dispute could impact the cost of energy, heating, and essential goods. Since much of the transport sector relies on fuel derived from Canadian resources, any supply friction can lead to broader inflationary pressures. In this scenario, the costs associated with the financial demand may ultimately be felt by consumers through higher prices. Looking at the broader historical context, this situation reflects a change in international relations. The United States has long been seen as a cornerstone of global economic stability. However, Firm financial demands on close allies can impact long-term trust. If such measures are applied to a primary trading partner and neighbor, other allies in Europe and Asia may also reconsider their own positions, leading to a shift in global alliances. The contrast in styles has become a subject of international observation. A composed and data-driven approach from Ottawa is being studied by leaders around the world. It provides a template for how other nations might navigate similar diplomatic challenges, emphasizing the importance of economic leverage and professional discourse. Typically, such crises are resolved through diplomatic channels and compromise. However, given the firm positions on both sides, several outcomes are possible. Here are 3 potential scenarios for how this situation might develop and its impact on the public. Scenario a imbalsa gradual de escalación. If market pressures and industry concerns become significant, the administration may choose to move away from the $2.8 trillion request. This would likely be framed as a successful negotiation to maintain public support, though the underlying trade relationship would remain altered by the experience. Scenario B is one of further escalation. This could involve significant tariffs and border restrictions, leading to reciprocal measures such as energy export limits. Such a situation would have a direct impact on industrial production and regional economies, potentially leading to a period of economic difficulty and currency fluctuations. Scenario C involves a strategic shift where Canada accelerates its trade with other regions, reducing the availability of critical resources for the U.S. market. If defense and technology sectors are impacted, the administration might find it necessary to reconsider its stance based on national security requirements, leading to a formal adjustment of the original request.